Yeah. So I really have to find work or something. This is why I really need to get that book out. Because if just 10 people buy, that helps me out. Oh, I gotta go. I'm live. Bye. Sorry, y'all. Yay me. Oh, so you left? Not nice. If you left. Guys, I'm going to hold off yet because I'm a little Okay. So today, we are going to be talking about cryptids. Woohoo! I love this topic because I'm a little bit of a cryptid myself. I feel like a cryptid. I feel like I'm lost half the time. Okay. So the first one that we're going to talk about is called the Lake Manitou Monster. And this actually comes from my home state in a city or town called Rochester. It is a reptilian serpent-like creature. The Native Americans in the area would not touch this lake at all. They wouldn't go fishing in it. They wouldn't go canoeing in it. Nothing. The monster is said to be 60 feet long and looks like a big serpent. The other one is like me. It's super short. I'm not super short, not as short as these guys, but they're called puckwudgies. And they are a creature about 3 feet tall. They have blonde hair, and these guys date back legend-wise to the indigenous people that lived in my home state. Bigfoot and other ape-like cryptids. There are so many sightings of apes like these, and they are scattered across America, and all across the world. There are skunk apes and the Sasquatch, and just tons. So the next one is sort of cool. This is called the Rougarou. It is a werewolf. Basically, it boils down to being a werewolf. They are here in the United States and perhaps in other places too. But the legend seems to be centered, at least here in the United States, in Louisiana. And some say that people who don't follow the rules of Lent become Rougarous. Other stories suggest that only a witch can turn somebody into the beast. Another part of this lore suggests that a person will remain with the curse for 101 days, and then the curse passes on to yet another person. What do you think about that? I think it's pretty cool. I forgot something. Sorry, my nose itched a little bit. How is everybody doing? Okay. Now this next one is Chupacabra. And its legend actually started, from what I could tell, the first reportings of this. I can't do this. I'm trying to set my papers up so I don't have to keep looking all over the place. And it's not working. So, these sightings started in 1995. So, yeah, take that with a grain of salt. There have been many, there were many domestic animals that were dead, that farmers or ranchers had found, that were drained of their blood. Anyway, the chupacabra was blamed for these deaths. No actual specimens of this creature have been found. Although there have been lots of sightings. The few animals, and I say animals because they are animals, that people thought were chupacabra, were canines, so dogs, coyotes, foxes, that were afflicted with mange and just looked different. These cryptids are described as large reptilian kangaroos with red eyes, and their name in Spanish means goat sucker. Goat sucker. That's what that means. The next one is the wampus cat. And this comes again from the United States. It comes from Appalachia. And it is actually a part of the Cherokee Nation's legends. The legend basically goes something like this. A woman eavesdropped on a tribal ceremony that she wasn't supposed to see. And because of her intrusion, she was transformed into a half-human, half-feline beast. She has been described as having a human face and a feline body. There have been supposed sightings in the Smoky Mountains. You can see it best or hear it best right after dawn and right after dark. The next one is the Thunderbirds. Now, this is a Native American legend again, and this cryptid is described as a large bird of prey. They are said to be so big that when they flap their wings, the birds create thunder. Their eyes send out flashes of lightning. Water comes off the back, causing rain. They could be dangerous beings, but they were also known to be benevolent. One report of these birds comes from 1977 in Illinois when two unknown birds attacked a boy. The birds picked the boy up and carried him only to drop him some time later. The birds were said to have an 8 feet wingspan, 6-inch beaks, and 3 front claws and a black body. In Arizona in 1890, cowboys claimed to have shot a large bird. It had no feathers and the head of an alligator. And somewhere there is a photo. Now, I want to say that the photo very possibly is a hoax. But I'm going to show it anyway, just because Again, could be a hoax. I don't think it's been confirmed a hoax, but that is the animal that they supposedly shot. In Australia, there is reports in Queensland of an unknown creature that they believe is a dinosaur. The Dundas Island blackfly. It is about 5 to 6 inches in size. They drink the blood of their prey and also have been known to eat the prey's flesh. To make matters worse, they are also venomous enough to kill a cow. This cryptid comes from Canada. Now, the next one that we're going to talk about is very interesting. It is a giant jellyfish. And the first report that I have was made in 1953 in Australia. A diver witnessed a large, dark, floating mass that was floating with the current. Later, he saw a shark approach the mass. Soon, the shark started to thrash around as if it were being attacked. They then saw the shark being pulled towards the mass. It was then that the diver realized what he was looking at was in fact a jellyfish. And this is not the only run-in with said jellyfish. But before I get into that, scientists worked on the size of that jellyfish needed to pull off this thing. And they said that it was more than 200 feet. Oh, wait, sorry. That the bell was 12 feet wide or bigger with tentacles that were over 200 feet or more. So that's how big of a jellyfish it would take to attack that shark. Slightly closer to home, in 1969, 2 divers saw a purple jellyfish in the water. The bell's diameter, that is the part that floats, was somewhere between 50 to 100 feet. Potentially. Now, this next one is very interesting. In 1971, an Australian ship was making its way through the Pacific Ocean. When it approached Fiji, it hit something. The captain says that the tentacles were over 200 feet. The bell was trying to engulf the ship. And at some point, the bell exploded, and the samples, when they were sent in to be looked at, came back as a lion's mane jellyfish. So I don't know. The next one is a tree that supposedly grows in Madagascar and can be found in Africa, in Madagascar, and in South and Central America. And it is called the Madagascar tree. A German explorer wrote an article that he says a tribe had the most unusual ritual. They would sacrifice people to a carnivorous tree. The tree had tendrils that wrapped around the person like a snake, and they would keep tightening until the animal or plant or human was dead. It said that the original story came from missionaries in Madagascar who had heard of the tree. It's also said that this plant lives in Africa as well as Central and South America. Oddly enough, this was said to be a hoax, but others have stepped up to claim it was true. The orang bitty. It is said to be a flying primate. It's said to attack after dark, and stories date back to the 1500s and come from Christian missionaries. They tell of stories of this creature kidnapping children and babies, and it's said to be 5 feet in length with leathery black wings, red skins, and a thin red tail. Now, it's thought maybe that this could be some form of giant bat, but fruit-flying foxes do not eat kids. Now, this next one is more of a ghost than a cryptid, but he popped up under cryptids, so we will cover him. It also, rumor has it, could be a guy dressed up in a costume, but that doesn't set right. So let's talk about him. It's known to attack young women with claws made out of steel or steel-like substance. It could breathe out blue and white flames, but seemed to be wearing a suit of all black. It is said to be a muscular man, with large pointed ears and nose, and with eyes that protruded outwards, and the eyes glowed. His last sighting came in 2012, and he was seen by a family. And there are even reports of Jack being spotted here in America. There was one such report of the ghost of Wading River. Hold on, I'll get back to it. It appears at 11:55 at night. It jumps from tombstone to tombstone, and when the clock strikes midnight, he sends out 12 fireballs and then just vanishes. And this is called Spring-Heeled Jack. And he dates back to the 1830s. Last one is the Jersey Devil. Now, this creature comes from the state of New Jersey, and its first sightings happened in 1735. It's said to have hooves, a snake tail, a head like a horse, and bat wings. Now, a lady named Mother Leeds is said to have given birth to this cryptid. She was a mistress to a British soldier, and she gave birth to her 13th child and promptly cursed that child. It was born hairy and soon started to terrorize people and eating children. Native Americans called this area the Devil, which is said to live in the place called Place of the Dragon. There have been many, many sightings of this creature. So, are these myths? Are they legends meant to scare kids into behaving? Or is there some truth to these legends and cryptids? Personally, I like to think that there is room in our world for such creatures. However, I don't know 100% if we should ever figure that out. I've seen what happens to our wildlife that we know about, that lives among us, and very often they end up being killed or whatnot. There is enough wilderness to hide in, but that is shrinking every day. And as it shrinks, that puts pressure on even our animals that we know about. An animal like, if Bigfoot is an animal, he's going to need a lot of area to roam in and to maybe hunt in or gather food. He's got to have plants. He's got to have resources. He's got to be able to breed. Otherwise, you run into the dangers of genetic issues. Because, again, an animal that can't find a mate doesn't reproduce. We don't have... That's the thing. If these things were real, we don't have the evidence to suggest that they are. We don't have bones. We don't have... We don't have bones. We don't know where to look for those bones. It's possible that if Bigfoot is real, that it could be capable of possibly burying their dead, in which case it could be anywhere. Again, if jumping the gun, if an animal like Nessie is real, they not only have to be able to have enough food, but I would think there would be more sightings because reptiles have to have air. You can't just not breathe underwater. There are some people who think that Bigfoot might be a dimensional creature, meaning they live one place but come to our dimension to whatever they do. There are so many cryptids that I didn't think I had time to go through them all. But if you want to suggest that's cool. I agree. Leave stuff alone. There are reports of people being captured by Bigfoot and taken to a cave where there were others of their kind. There are reports of them throwing rocks at people. How much of that is true, I don't know because I have never experienced that. That's just me. I don't know. Again, by the way, happy happy July. I can't think. Happy 13th of or happy Friday the 13th, everybody. Hopefully you're having a fantastic time with it. If not, I am so sorry. So, another animal that is out there that we sometimes hear about is the Kraken. Now, I am not talking the Kraken from Clash of the Titans. I am talking a living, well, supposedly living, breathing octopus, cephalopod. Now, there is some debate. Is that Kraken a squid? Certainly, there are squids that are big enough to take a ship, a small rowboat, maybe. And they might even try to get a hold of bigger ships. That is a possibility. Maybe a colossal, maybe a giant squid. I don't know about octopuses getting that big, but definitely squid. Back in the early days, that is a possibility. Maybe. Wendigo, a lot of times, according to, if I understand the myth correctly, they were mainly people who had cannibalized on other humans and then were punished by turning into the Wendigo. Yeti, I'm going to throw in Yeti with the other cryptids, the other Bigfoot-like monsters. We have talked already about Rougarou. I'm not going to get into that because there's no point. Don't forget to like this live. I'm sorry, I don't have a bunch of pictures. So basically, a cryptid, because I didn't define it. Cryptids basically are an animal whose existence has not been proven. Now, for a long time, it was believed that gorillas were a cryptid. We talked about Jersey Devil already. The Loch Ness Monster is basically believed to be a dinosaur. It lives in a lake called Loch Ness. Big surprise there. Loch Ness is 22 square miles, so fairly good-sized lake. Probably a plesiosaur. This dinosaur would date back to 201 to about 66 million years ago. The first modern sighting of this animal dates back to 1933. So, we don't know. There are plenty of fish that live in the nests in the lake. And also, it sits on a fault line. Could the Loch Ness Monster be nothing more than sea otters or sea otters? River otters? Could it be a sturgeon? Because sturgeons get pretty good sized. We don't know. Mothman. 1966 is when the first sighting sort of occurred. He appeared at a place on the nearby Silver Bridge in 1967. The bridge soon collapsed, killing 46 people. Rumor has it that Mothman appeared at that stage and possibly warned people of the impending disaster. And he has appeared in other places as well. In the Congo Basin, they have a monster known as Mokle Bembi. Anyway, it is thought that he is a brontosaurus, apatosaurus. In the 20th century, a animal merchant came in and popularized sort of this belief. They have never been able to, there is no evidence to support that this creature exists. We've already talked about chupacabra. In the 1920s, a guy went into Mongolia and he wrote about an animal there that was shaped like a sausage, had no head, no legs, and was so poisonous that just touching it could bring instant death. And this guy lives in the Gobi Desert. By the way, 11% of people within the United States believe that Bigfoot really does exist. And they supposedly have a new picture that was circulated from Colorado that shows a Bigfoot. There is another plesiosaur creature called Champy. He lives in Lake Champlain, and his first sighting occurred in 1609. There is a monster called the Honey Island Swamp Monster. He's basically another type of Bigfoot and was associated with a circus train derailment in the 1960s. He is said to have red eyes, red or yellow eyes, gray hair, and a foul smell. And the first two sightings did occur in that area. And it's also been linked to the Choctaw tribes and another tribe that lives in that area. No, I don't think so. Not with it being connected to legend. In Oklahoma, there is a lake, various lakes that they believe holds a freshwater octopus that kills people. Dum 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 dum. Yeah, so it's cryptids are kind of cool. It's sort of out there on the fringe of what is real and what is not. A lot of people dismiss them and say, yep, nope. Well, unicorns. So unicorns, let's talk about it. There's a couple different animals that could hold the story of the unicorn. One is the narwhal, which has that big horn. Those, when they died, could wash up on shores, and people found them. That could have spurred tales of unicorns. Also, people that were going out west into areas like the Middle East during the Crusades or during trading expeditions, they might have seen oryx. They have really straight horns. And if you saw a side profile, you may not have seen that other horn. That could have very easily given rise to the story of unicorns. We've already talked about the Rougarou. The Grassman, he is a swamp thing-ish creature. He said to have 3 toes for whatever reason. The Goat Man, he's a Lover's Lane type creature. Again, it could be oryx. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I don't believe unicorns are real. Going good. How are you? So this guy is thought to have attacked cars. It's said to be an experiment that escaped from the local U.S. Agriculture Department or the University of Maryland laboratories. Another creature is the White River Monster. This one comes from Arkansas and is said to be a big, scaly fish type thing about 12 feet long with a horn that comes out of its head. And it is supposedly strong enough to sink ships. There are also a lot of different stories, sort of like the Puckwudgies that I mentioned earlier, where they're sort of goblin-like, maybe, dare I, not fairy-like, but gnome-like. From Kirtland, Ohio, we have the Melonheads. Yes, Melonheads. These guys, the story has it that a doctor lived in the woods who somehow acquired a bunch of kids. That just doesn't sound good. From a mental hospital and performed experiments on them that caused their heads to become bulbous and misshapen. One night, the children revolted and burned the doctor's house down, and they now travel the woods looking for human companionship. Send shivers right down your spine. Lizard Man from South Carolina. Not much to say. He's 7 feet tall and is a lizard man. If you know your ancient history, we used to have a large wolf called a dire wolf that lived here in the Americas. And there are people who have said they have seen a dire wolf. But they have not been alive for a very long time. And yeah. In Ohio, there is a story of a creature known as the Frogman. Again, I don't know. In Michigan, there are reports of dogmen. Now, the dogmen are a bipedal dog, sort of like a werewolf, possibly. In Amsterdam, they have a creature known as Bullebak. And children are told these stories. They live underneath bridges. Sounds like a troll. The Beast of Bray Woods, again. Oh, I'm sorry. The Beast of Bray Wood. This is supposed to be a human canine hybrid. Again, it is probably somebody drunk. I don't know. Could be real. It was first reported in 1935 and, according to legend, is a werewolf-type creature. Another creature, this one comes from New Zealand. I don't know much about it, other than that it lives in deep pools within rivers or dark caves or even in the sea. They normally live in places that have dangerous waters, currents, or deceptive breakers, giant waves. These guys are protective spirits over the people. But they can also be predatory beings. So, And this is a legend that is all throughout the South Pacific. In South Africa, they have a creature. I'm not going to try pronouncing its name, but it's basically the size of a small monkey, about a foot high, and chases people around. In Australia, this is a legend that comes from the Aboriginals. Traditionally, it's called a bunyip. They're said to be friendly, but they can also be not so friendly. So there's a lot of different stories out there. Some of them are laughable. Some of them, even for me, sort of makes me think a little bit. Not always, but sometimes. Dragons probably came about because of dinosaur bones. Or perhaps even mammoth bones, because why not? So, any other cryptids that you want to talk about? I'm not. I'm actually skimming websites because I ran out of my notes. Sorry. I usually have um my notes. There are a lot of websites on cryptids. I certainly don't have all the answers. I don't try to. Websites do a pretty good job of covering stuff like that. I love the stuff that comes from my home state, and there's not a lot of them. There is one that I don't remember its name. It's basically a giant turtle that lives in one of our lakes here in my home state. I know there is a creature, lives in Colorado, I believe, or supposed to, that is pretty good sized and slides down the mountains eating creatures. Yes, exactly like that one. He's been spotted, I want to say, in Moscow, and he always seems to appear just before a big disaster. So people don't know if he's like a demon, if he's something else giving warning of those events, but yeah. Definitely creepy. It's quite possible that what people first saw, because he has red eyes, and it's thought that birds at night, well, it's not thought, we know that birds at night have a reflective layer in their eyes, where if you shine a light into their eyes, they go red. So there is some thought that when people saw Mothman, what they were really seeing was either an owl or a great horned crane, or a great horned owl, a sandhill crane, or something like that. But again, I don't know. And I would like to know. I don't necessarily want to know if we have Rougarous running around, because that's a little bit scarier, but definitely room for something like Bigfoot. Definitely room for something like Yeti. Mankind tends to pick and choose. We also allow ourselves to hear a story and run with it. So something like an oryx could very easily become a unicorn, or an escaped gorilla could easily turn into a Bigfoot. But Probably not, because Bigfoot, they look at Bigfoot, at least in the Northwest in Washington State, they look at them as being more or less a protective forest spirit, rather instead of a primate. I'm sorry. Okay, at this point, I've covered what I wanted to cover, so we are going to switch gears, if I can. Maybe I can't. I forgot to do this. That's not what I want. The Rougarou would be a werewolf. Um, they tend to be, it's more a Catholic Church thing, believing that if you don't practice Lent correctly, you would turn into a Rougarou. It could pass on via the curse, also witches supposedly do it. Yeah. And there are a lot of different beings that are sort of werewolfy like. There is a were-tiger, a were-bear. There was a myth in South America, maybe even the Aztecs, where people would transform into were-jaguars. There's a being in where is it? Scotland or Ireland, where the seal comes out of the water and it's a lady, and she lures you or lives with you for a while and then tries to get you to go back to her to the sea. In South America, in places, they believe that the pink river dolphin will lure people away into the water to live in a underwater city. Again, not sure how much I believe that. For the next few minutes, because we don't have a lot of time, we are going to start a... No, this is something else. Oh no. Carol, can you still see chat? Hello? Maybe not. Oh, ask me a question. Carol, do me a favor. Type in a question for me. I want to see how this works. If you can, because I can't see it. Yeah, that's okay. I know. I'm bummed, but what can I do? Oh, wait, no, somebody came back. Hello. Don't forget, if you're here, click that like button because that helps me out. It lets other people see me. We will keep going as long as as long as I can talk. Is there a way to find a cryptid? Yeah, search for it. Set up, trail cameras and in the also, if you haven't used the poll, let me know if you think cryptids are real. We are also sort of doing a Q&A at this point because time is sort of winding down. Yeah, so if a cryptid is real, trail cameras at this point are probably the best bet. Um, if you're dealing with something underwater, sonar is your best bet because it will bounce off of that creature and send the image back up. Pictures, like with your phone, work really well. The problem is pictures can be faked. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think we all want to believe that they are real. Certainly there is room for a lot of things to be real. Yes, they did. Now, I did see an image from National Geographic because they did a series on Nessie years ago that captured what looked like a flipper. Was very convincing, but there's been nothing since. I know they're doing a big search for Nessie now, but we'll have to see what comes out of that. I personally have a better feeling about Bigfoot being real than Nessie being real. That's just me. Because you have to be able to sustain that population over millions upon millions of years, and genetics again, I don't know. Unless we are dealing with something like a hollow earth theory, where the animals can pass to and fro. I just don't know. I just don't know. But there are. I don't think so. I think it's landlocked. Now, there might be pockets of air, so like underwater caves, but animals have to have air, at least, within theory. They have to have food. They have to be able to reproduce. And they have to have enough territory in which to do those three things. Or not so much the air, but they have to be able to reproduce and they have to be able to find food. If they can't do that, they're not going to last. That's why something like Bigfoot, because there is lots of room out west and in other places as well. Because let's face it, there is a Bigfoot-like creature that lives in Florida. Plenty of room for him to find his way around in the Everglades and some of the areas around the Everglades. I have a little bit more problem with something like an underwater creature. Of course, who knows? Yeah, if they can't find a mate, they're not going to reproduce. And I don't know enough about those animals to know if they gave live birth, because there are some reptiles that give live birth, but did Plesiosaur give live birth? I don't know. And there are also animals that didn't need a mate and were able to reproduce without a mate. So I guess that's even a possibility, to be honest. Yes, but again, um, you have to be able to find food. Something like a megalodon or a megalodon. I have a hard time believing that one. And he definitely is an ocean cryptid. I have a better feeling towards mermen and mermaids than I do the others. Just because they're out there. I don't know what that one is. Okay, I don't have any idea what I'm doing next week on Tuesday. However, I do want to talk about parasites, so maybe that's what we'll do. We will talk about parasites. It won't be a long one, so there's that. Oh, and ta-da! Little old me. I actually have sort of blondish hair. Wow. Very cool. Who knew? Anyway, thank you. Looks like our poll was 100%. Wish I could access. Wish I could access the live. Oh, 278 subscribers, Carol. The one that came in, the one person that came in and participated in chat, they might have joined. Cool. Any other thoughts on lives for next week? I'm thinking parasites. I can't see what you just said. Their sound was gone. Got it back. You lost your sound and just got it back. I hope you didn't see anything in back of me today. Yeah. Snails. Hey, there were a couple times where I thought I saw something. Oh. That closet kind of freaks me out. I'm telling you, if I'm really good, we might be able to get to 300 before the end of the year. Mollusca. But I want to stick with the creepy stuff. I like that idea. Maybe venomous animals? Maybe danger box? We could do danger box. When is Halloween? Any idea? Um, Yeah, that's true. I'm just glad that I can sleep in tomorrow. Anybody else just going to sleep in? 2. I have 3 more Tuesdays. That can't be right because it's already the 13th. Oh, no, you're right. So it's a Tuesday. Uh, I have lots of paper because I forgot to tell it to. Yeah. Are you doing anything Halloween? Well, we'll do that one at noon anyway, so it doesn't matter. Right? I was thinking we could do Danger Box and do some of that. But a lot of those animals that have that are dangerous anyway. We're trying to figure out what I'm going to do for lives for the next week or the next 3 weeks. Also, if I do get a job, obviously things are going to change because obviously I'm working and my hours are not going to be the same. We talked about cryptids today, but we're actually a little bit overtime. Actually, we're a lot overtime. Okay. Should I call you and discuss it, or I feel like that's a better alternative. I will call you. Not like we haven't called 24/7, but I need to end this.